I've finished editing my book. What happens now? That is the question we are going to answer today. The vast majority of our time on this channel is spent helping you improve the manuscript itself. Most of the videos I make are about structure, character, pacing, openings and endings, and all of the problems that need to be solved before a book is ready for readers. But what happens when that work is finished? What happens when the manuscript is ready and you need to turn it into a professionally published book that readers can actually discover? Because even a strong manuscript can disappear if the cover communicates the wrong thing, the blurb fails to create curiosity, the book is placed in front of the wrong readers, or the launch gives people no compelling reason to pay attention. So today, I want to take you behind the scenes of a real book we recently helped published. It's called One Green Bottle by Jonathan Lee. It currently has a 4.4 star rating from 139 readers, praise from a Sunday Times best-selling author, and has built the kind of momentum most independent authors would be delighted with. I chose this as a case study because the book is well positioned, but also the writing gave us something strong to work with. The opening made a clear promise, the characters created immediate suspicion, and beneath the commercial mystery was a much deeper emotional story about grief, betrayal, addiction, and the extreme decisions people make when they feel trapped. Then the cover, blurb, metadata, distribution, and launch all reinforce the same reading experience. So in this video, I'm going to show you what the novel itself did particularly well, what happened after the manuscript was finished, and the publishing decisions that helped give the book its best chance of finding the right readers. Let's kick things off with the most important thing. This book makes a very clear promise. The prologue places 12 people on a remote Norwegian mountain. The weather turns, only 9 can be accounted for, and the section closes with 3 possibilities. You jump, you fall, or you're pushed. And of course, that establishes an isolated setting, a limited group of suspects, a disappearance or death, a central question, and of course, the possibility of murder. Then the story moves back 3 days to show how everyone reached that point. And here is the takeaway lesson. A strong opening does not need to explain the whole plot. It needs to establish a compelling story promise. In this case, someone will disappear. Almost anyone could be responsible. But you need to keep reading to discover who and why. A question for you to think about in your own novel is, can you explain the promise of your novel in one sentence? The second thing this book did incredibly well is every major character creates suspicion. The book does not simply introduce 10 interchangeable travelers. Each important character arrives with a private wound, something to conceal, a strained relationship, a possible motive, or a reason that the reader just can't completely trust them. Paul and Jane, for example, are traveling around the anniversary of their daughter's death, but Jane is becoming increasingly secretive with her phone. Estelle appears to be helping her alcoholic sister, but she is also trying to gain control of her sister's money and legal affairs. Anne is unwell and trapped in a degrading marriage. Jefferson is hiding serious problems behind an extravagant public image. The mystery works because suspicion is generated through character, not randomly added near the ending. The book's positioning accurately reflects this. Secrets, grief, duplicity, hidden motives, and character-driven suspense. The key takeaway is, in an ensemble mystery, don't just ask, could this character have committed the crime? Ask, what would this character lose if the truth became known? And that creates both motive and emotional depth. I like to think of it in terms of give every suspect 2 secrets. One connected to the mystery and one connected to who they really are. The third thing this book does very well is the mystery sits on top of an emotional story. The commercial premise is easy to explain. 10 people go up a mountain, 9 return. But underneath that is a story about bereavement, addiction, marriage, illness, shame, money, betrayal, and the extreme things people justify when they feel trapped. Paul and Jane's grief is established almost immediately. Their cruise is not simply a holiday, it's an attempt to escape the anniversary of losing their only child, and perhaps to repair a marriage that has started to fracture. The takeaway here is that to create a strong thriller, you need two engines. The external question, what happened on the mountain? And the emotional question, what have these people become because of what happened before the mountain? The mystery creates curiosity, and the emotional story is what creates the investment. Now, the next part of this video is where I'm going to dig into the publishing and marketing for this book. But of course, the journey of any book starts long before that point. Most books we receive are at the rough first draft stage, or an author just has a premise and a few chapters. They may have the right premise, but the opening is too slow, the characters do not create enough suspicion, the emotional story is buried, or the ending doesn't deliver on the promise established at the beginning. That is where developmental editing comes in. Our editors examine the whole manuscript, structure, character, pacing, tension, and emotional payoff before the book reaches the publishing stage. If you would like us to assess where your manuscript currently stands, you can submit it or book a strategy call through the links below. And of course, when you're ready to publish, we can help with that too. On to number 4, and that is that the cover is distinctive rather than generic. The green cover doesn't use the usual thriller shorthand of a frightened woman, a dark house, a misty forest, a figure walking away, or a stock photograph of a mountain. It uses a simple bottle motif, strong color, and custom lettering that makes it recognizable at thumbnail size. A professional cover doesn't just need to look attractive, it needs to be recognizable when small. It needs to suggest the right genre. It needs to create a question and avoid blending into hundreds of visually identical books. The title and bottle imagery also work together, so the cover becomes easier to remember because the image reinforces the name. On to the 5th thing that this book did incredibly well. It's that the blurb sells the central question. The most effective part of the blurb is its compressed structure. 10 take the trip, 9 come back, each has a reason to disappear, each has a reason to kill. It doesn't explain all the relationships or reveal the sequence of events. It gives the reader a situation, a numerical imbalance, multiple motives, and ultimately an unresolved question. And of course, once the book was published, we refined this a few times to clarify the positioning more around people watching, grief, secrets, and sinister motives. So the blurb should always be a work in progress. Often when we receive the first draft of a blurb from authors, it tends to read a bit like a shortened synopsis. And of course, a synopsis explains the story and ultimately gives too much away. A blurb needs to create the desire to enter the story. Ask yourself, does your blurb create a question, or is it merely listing what happens? On to number 6, and what was done here is that the metadata was corrected to describe the whole novel. This is one of the most interesting behind the scene elements, a little secret sauce for you here. The early keyword suggestions for this book leaned heavily towards remote mountain survival, wilderness danger, hiking gone wrong, but really the hike occupies only a small part of the novel. The real book concerns grief, secrets, duplicity, hidden lives, and the motivations that push ordinary people towards extreme actions. The keywords were consequently revised towards psychological secrets, hidden motives, grief and loss, secrets between friends, and character-driven suspense. Often when we review metadata and keywords, they're positioning the book around its most visually dramatic scene. It's much more effective to position it around the reading experience delivered across the whole book. A mountain appears in the opening of this book, but the product is not really a hiking thriller. It's a character-driven psychological mystery. That distinction determines which readers discover it, which comparison titles make sense, and which categories fit, and whether the eventual reader receives what the listing is promising them. On to number 7, and this is that the launch had more than one point of entry. The project included paperback and ebook publication, standard green and limited purple editions, a charity-linked special print run, a planned launch event, digital outreach, UK and US bookshop outreach, And the special edition was linked to Western Park Cancer Charity, creating a reason for readers and supporters to care beyond the ordinary publication announcement. Too often what I see is book launches that consist of, "My book is available, please buy it." And a strong launch should create several reasons to discuss the book. The story itself, an event, a charitable connection, an endorsement, a limited edition, reviewer outreach, bookshop conversations. The more points of entry you have to your book, the better. Importantly, this book didn't work because of a secret Amazon trick. It worked because of all the important pieces aligning. The opening created a clear promise. The characters gave the reader multiple reasons to remain suspicious. The mystery had a genuine emotional foundation. The cover was memorable. The blurb created curiosity. And the positioning described the book readers were actually going to receive. Publishing ultimately can't manufacture a compelling novel from nothing, but a strong novel can absolutely disappear when its packaging, positioning, and the launch are working against it. One Green Bottle is a useful example of what can happen when the book and the publishing decisions begin pulling in the same direction. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which part of publishing do you think has the biggest effect on whether a book gets discovered? Cover, blurb, opening, reviews after the launch? Tell me in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.